Good evening, trustees, and welcome to the special meeting on Wednesday, June the 5th. The purpose of this meeting is to consider the establishment of a search committee for Director of Education. At this time, I'd like to call the meeting to order and do the land acknowledgement. Can you turn your sound? Thank you. Nous reconnaissons que nous sommes accueillis sur les terres des Mississauga, des Anishinaabe, de la Confédération Haudenosaunee. Somebody's sound is on. Et du Wendat. Nous voulons également reconnaître la pérennité de la présence des Premières Nations, des Métis et des Inuits, Miigwech. Okay, trustees. Does anyone have any declarations of possible conflict of interest? Now would be the time. Okay, hearing none, we're going to move on to item number 3. This is written notices of motion for consideration. Item number 3.1 is the establishment of a search committee for a Director of Education. This is moved by trustees Chen and Chernis Lin. I'm wondering if there's someone else who wants to, just thinking we maybe need somebody else to move this, or else somebody else to chair this. We didn't really think this through. Would anybody else like to move this with Vice Chair Shen? Okay, thank you, Trustee Arts. I didn't really think that through. Sorry, everybody. So Arts and Shen. Okay, so we have a motion on the floor. It is up on the screen, and we're just going to make it a bit larger. So the motion is that the Director of Education has indicated her intention to retire on November 1st, 2024. And so this is that a search committee for a Director of Education be established as follows. The mandate to present a recommendation to the board on the selection of a candidate for the position of Director of Education. The membership is to be determined. And B, that the search committee present an update on the process of the at the next regular meeting of the Planning and Priorities Committee on June 11th and the next regular board meeting on June 19th. So I'm going to ask the movers if they wish to speak to this. Okay, so do the mover, seconder wish to speak to the motion first? You don't want to speak to it. Do you want to speak to it first, or? Okay. Vice Chair Shen, please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This motion is fairly straightforward because it's actually giving us direction to start the process for director search. It doesn't prescribe too much except to say that we need to get the committee started. So I hope we can find the mechanism that is right to make sure that we get the appropriate amount of people reflective of the board to be able to proceed with this process. So just as a standard initial motion that we've on the floor. Thank you.
Okay, and I'm not seeing any other, or the other mover does not wish to speak to it at this time. So I believe we have Trustee Suskandaraj on the list.
Thank you. So can I guess, would it be an amendment or the suggestion I have for the board?
Sure.
Okay, do I send it to Denise?
Sure. And Bella, perhaps? And Bella Adao, please.
Okay, I sent it.
While that's going through, would you like to describe it, perhaps?
Sure. It's pretty much the original motion you all presented, just with the an increase in the number of members to 11 as opposed to 7. Just from speaking to trustee colleagues, there seems to be a lot of interest. So I think going with a number that's a bit bigger, and a number that we've used in the past, so it's not out of the ordinary. and it would allow sort of more voices on the committee. I know this is a process that a lot of people are invested in, and the worry is if we don't have sort of an expansive committee, that if people don't feel as committed to the director, that we're not setting up our director for success. And I think ultimately that's what we all want. So I didn't want to be overly prescriptive. I think it's 11 members with the inclusion of chair and vice chair. Yeah, pretty straightforward.
Denise, I think what she has put forward is that it's 11. Am I understanding you correctly, Trustee Sriskandarajah?
Yes, and I've emailed it to Denise
Okay.
as well.
So do I have any speakers on the list? I see Trustee McLean. I just want to make sure that I'm looking in the chat as well. We haven't, okay. Trustee McLean, please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. And through the chair, just a question to the movers. When we did 11 previously, there was an effort to get some from each learning center. Is that also what we're thinking about, or what's being suggested here? Or is it the mover's intention to just have an election amongst those in the event that more than 11 aren't, or more than 9, because I think the movers indicated that the chair and the vice chair would sit automatically. So assuming we get more than 9, I'm curious how it is that we would decide who the 9 would be.
Thank you for that question. Yes, so last term we did do an LC model. And we didn't include the chair and vice chair as automatic appointments to the committee. My thinking around moving away from it is twofold. One is I know as a board we're moving away from the LC model. So just to kind of set us up for what we're going to be going through as a board as a whole. And secondly, what happened last time is one of the LCs had to voluntarily, step one down. So we didn't have 12. We had different conversations of whether that was appropriate or not. So the rationale for just having a blanket election like we do usually is just to sort of show adherence to the general movement of the board to go beyond the current LC models that we use.
Do we have any other speakers on the list? I'll just put you on the floor. How about?
It's an amendment, though. If you speak on this amendment, you can still speak on that amendment. If you don't speak, it's going to go to vote.
I'm going to speak on this amendment. Through the chair.
Oh, shoot.
So I'm not very familiar with this process, and I just wondered if
Sorry, can you hold 1 sec?
the,
Just give me a second. Okay, I have to figure out what I've done wrong. No, my apologies.
okay, that's okay. So is this, search committee like any other meetings where members outside of the committee can attend but don't have a vote? I'm just trying to understand how this committee actually functions. So I don't know if that's a point of order, if it's a question for the movers.
You're,
If a committee is struck, if somebody's not on the committee, can they attend some meetings if they are able, or no, it's a closed committee?
I believe this is a closed committee because it's dealing with HR issues. However, the way this committee works is that it will report to board regularly. So through planning and priorities or wherever, it will come back. And even though not everybody sits on the committee, it is a board decision as to who our new director would be.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, and there may be pieces that the committee even comes back to get board approval on sometimes, depending on what course of action they might take or different things. So just like all committees, they report into board.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, I don't know if that question was directed to me as well, so I don't know if I need to answer.
Do you have
Oh,
anything
me too.
further you wish to add, Trustee Sriskandarajah?
Yes, sure. Thanks for the question. Through you, Madam Chair. There are points in the process where the committee will come back and often seek feedback from the committee. So whether it's sort of what kind of criteria we're looking for, those sorts of things. So the board at large is not left wondering what's happening. So we do regularly seek feedback. At least that's what I remember from our process last time.
Trustee King, please go ahead. Okay, we'll have Trustee King followed by Trustee Lee. Please go ahead.
Thank you, through Chair. I just wanted to indicate support for what my colleague has suggested. I do think getting wider involvement for 11 trustees is wise. I appreciate not being too prescriptive in the composition, especially given the change in the LC model, but I do think that representation across geography is important, and it is something that I trust my colleagues to consider along with some other factors if we were to look at just a straight election model. So thank you.
Trustee Lee followed by Trustee DeVitis.
Yeah, thank you, through you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to share some of my memories from the previous process. I was not a member of the committee, so I, understood the process as a general board member fairly well. The information or the process that we went through as someone who's not on the committee is that there were reports from the committee, but all the members of the committee were under very strict NDAs. So the details of what happened in the committee was never released to anyone who's not on the committee. And whatever is reported to the board comes as a result of a committee agreement on what to say to the board and what to bring to the board. So just in case of any of my new colleagues are wondering how this actually works, if you're not there, you would probably not get the full context on what is happening. I know I didn't, and I know many of my colleagues didn't. And a lot of times when I did ask about, hey, what is happening in director search? Are there any updates? The members of the committee very frequently said, James, I'd love to share with you, but I am under a very strict NDA, so I can't tell you the details on exactly what happened. So to date, all I know is that there in the last director search, there were some very close candidates. There were some very, competitive discussions, and but I still don't have any context on how the committee arrived at the decision for our current director. That context was not shared. All that's shared is the recommendation from the committee and the justifications on why. So that's just, I know my colleagues are probably wondering, so I wanted to explain that to you. So if you're not on the committee, in my opinion, you will not know what's happening with exception to the result of the discussions. and on this on the proposal or amendment that Trustee Surskana Raja had raised, I agree that 11 members is a good number, but I do raise concerns on the geographical representation of the committee if it is elected through a open vote. I will say that I'm quite proud to say that our board is one that has a very diverse set of viewpoints, and we represent different ethnic groups, different walks of life, and we see things from different perspectives. But I will definitely not say that the representation of different perspectives are equal amongst those voting members of the board. And I hold full respect to all of my colleagues, and I hold everyone utmost content. But I will say that a full election does not prevent the overrepresentation of specific perspectives and viewpoints, and also perhaps the underrepresentation of certain geographic areas. In fact, this was why many of our trustees in the eastern part of our city, in the last time when we tried to vote for a director search committee, had proposed the LC model to make sure that Scarborough's included, North York's included, downtown's included, beaches are included, Etobicoke's included, everywhere. Right. So I do encourage all of our members and also the chairs and the vice chair to consider a more representative or enforced representation across our city. After all, we are all elected by different communities across the city, and the process of searching for a director, which is one of the core roles of this board, should also have equal representation across all parts of the city. In my opinion, if we can't do it by equal representation across learning centers, perhaps a random draw is going to be, in my opinion, not the worst idea as well. Just because I believe that will also result in fairly even representation, or that could. Okay, thank you. That's what I have to share, and I pass it back to the chair.
Okay, before we move on in the speakers list, can I just ask any trustees who have joined since roll call to let us know?
Trustee Pei, present.
Trustee Laskin, present.
Thank you. And I've added you to the speaker list, Trustee Pei.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Trustee DeVitis.
Just looking up at the screen through the chair, I see we don't have a seconder yet. So maybe I can add my name to that. I'm happy to support this.
Thank you for noticing that. My apologies, everyone. It's only 8:15 or so, and I'm already making mistakes. Okay, so we have a mover and a seconder, which is good because we're already discussing it. Do you have anything further that you wanted to ask? Just note keeping. Okay, thank you for the housekeeping note. Trustee Pei, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I do echo Trustee Lee's comments that each learning center should have equal representation. So I want to make an amendment for this motion. I would propose 12 trustees, 3 trustees from each learning centers, and to have an equal representation. Thank you.
Trustee Lee will second.
To do which?
So, okay, so there is a motion or an amendment motion. Do you have a seconder for that, Trustee Lee?
James Lee seconding.
Okay, so to have three trustees from each learning center. Can I just ask a point of clarification on this, Trustee Pei? Are you asking that the committee be moved up to 12?
That's correct. Including the chair and the vice chair. The chair and the vice chair do not go through the selection process, but for their learning center, the number of trustees will be cut down from 3. Elected trustee will be cut down from 3 to 2. Okay?
Okay, so so it's 3 from each learning center, including to a
Including the
total of
chair and the vice
12,
chair.
including the
But
learning, including the chair and
chair and
vice
vice
chair.
chair automatically become the committee member. The 10 trustees will be elected from each learning center. Does that make sense? So like a 2 trustee from learning center 1, and I
3
think a
would
2
be
trustee from
2.
learning center 3, and the 3 trustee from learning center 2 and 4.
Okay, so
Just
we have
to
we have a
clarify.
motion, we have a motion on the floor. Speakers, oh, sorry, we have an amendment. We have an amendment to the amendment. So we won't be taking any more amendments at this time because we can only have 2 amendments at a time. So we will deal with those first. So on this amendment to the amendment, which is the learning center model that's been proposed, I have trustee.
Can you put me on the list, please? It's Trustee Laskin. I'm in the
sure
car,
can.
so I can't use the chat.
Thank you. It will be Trustee Patel, you're first, then Trustee Laskin.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Moores and Seconder. I just need some clarification. If I'm not wrong, in last board, when we were reaching the mark of 12, that was consist of board, right? If I'm not wrong. So are we supposed to have 12 or less than 12? Because that was a question last time we had at our DSC search committee, if I'm not wrong.
I don't remember.
I can add a point of clarification to that, Madam Chair.
Sure, go ahead, Trustee Laskin.
Trustee Zakir is absolutely correct that it shouldn't be 12 because that's the majority of the board, and the committee recommends to the board, so it has to be less than 12. That was the rules the last time. And the last time it wasn't the chair and the vice chair, it was 3 from each learning center. Each learning center selected their own, and then 1 was asked to drop out, so there would be 11.
Madam Chair, can the movers clarify on that answer? Is that possible?
So just one moment. Trustee Patel, does that answer your question?
It does, Madam Chair, and that was the clarification I was looking for, and that was my understanding, that we cannot have more than 11.
Sorry, point of order. That's not true, though. We have full board on the PPC committee. So committees can have full board because not everyone on the committee will agree. The committee will vote by majority vote, right? So even if you have 12 on the committee, that does not necessarily represent the majority on the board because 8-4 means majority, right, on the committee.
So the only thing I would point out would be that what's being discussed at PSSC is everyone is privy to, as opposed to this, not everybody is privy to, only the committee members are privy to. So I would imagine, I don't know, I would ask Ms. Joseph Dowers for clarity on this, but is this
Because if I'm not wrong, Madam Chair.
I just want to get a point of clarification from governance just on this, because Trustee Lee has made a point of order, I guess.
Madam Chair, that was the decision made at for the last process. If you have 12 members in the committee, that is a majority. That was not accepted at the last meeting. It should be 11 members, and you would also need an odd number.
Could you clarify why we would need an odd number? Because we don't have an odd number at board.
No, that the last meeting, you dropped 1 of the members so that you would have less than 12 on the committee, because 12 represents the majority of the board.
No, it's not. I don't think. It's not in the bylaws, though. No. Okay. It's not a bylaw issue in that sense. Okay, Trustee Patel, you still have the floor.
So just for clarification, as what Trustee Lee said, that PPC is also a committee, right? But I guess PPC is a board, it's not a committee.
PPC is a committee. It's the Planning and Priorities Committee, but it's a committee of the whole. So the whole board votes.
Can participate and vote, right? So
Participate and vote.
that makes
So it's different.
that makes a distinction between a committee for me, right? And I think that was the debate we had last term when we were looking for director search, and that's why we came to 11 members. So it does not become a majority, because we have to understand, with respect to all those 12 members who are on the board, right? They can come back and, vote in favor of any directors we search, and the rest of the 10 directors might not have their voice, if we agree or disagree, right? So in all fairness, I think 11 is good. We set that precedent in the past. If we can continue with that, that will be great. Now about the process, we have 2 amendments on the floor. Members will vote on each amendment. Whichever passes, we vote on that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Patel. So we're still on the amendment to the amendment. This is the Learning Center model with 12. Trustee Laskin.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm content not to reinvent the wheel and do what we did last year. I would support that. Thank you.
So just to clarify, Trustee Laskin, that's a committee of 11?
Correct. 3 from each learning center that's voted on by the learning center. Those names are put forward. And if one doesn't voluntarily drop off, then that's where you can have a lottery.
Okay, so I think right now we have an amendment to an amendment, which is for 12. So I think we would have to vote on that before you can put forward something different. So let's just finish the speakers list, Trustee Laskin, and then if this fails, you are free to put forward that motion. I hope that makes sense.
No problem, Madam Chair, but I was just supporting Trustee Patel.
Okay. Are there any other speakers on this? Okay.
Trustee.
Actually, Madam Chair, I agree with Trustee Laskin's suggestions. Like we select each 3 from each learning center, and if no one trustee volunteer drop out from the committee, then we just do lottery for the whoever on the 3rd place for each learning center.
Yeah, and Trustee Lee will support that change.
Excuse me, pardon me, Trustee Lee, you don't have the floor at the moment.
I actually do, but okay.
Pardon me?
It's actually my turn, but okay, it's okay.
I thought Trustee Pei was on the floor.
Trustee Pei had the floor, I believe.
Yeah. Madam Chair, am I clear on this, or are people still need my clarification?
They moved it already, so it's Patel last by the person.
I didn't understand what he asked. I don't understand what he asked.
We're already talking about it. He already moved an amendment and we're discussing that. The amendment to the amendment. Yeah, he already said what it is.
We have an amendment to an amendment that is on the floor, which is what we are discussing. My apologies. I was not aware that Trustee Rajakulasingam had her name on the list. So Trustee Pei, you can just hold that thought for a minute, and we're going to go to Trustee Rajakulasingam.
Absolutely. Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, through the chair. I was on the committee last term, and I remember very vividly how we did the process and the reasonings. And I think one of the reasons why we went for the Learning Center approach was it was a very different board with very different issues and a different environment that we were dealing with. For those of you that remember, we had that Integrity Commissioner complaint that talked about some of the issues as a board that we were dealing with. So I think at the time, many of us we're pushing for the Learning Center approach, just to ensure that we are represented. But I found that having a committee of 11 ensures that it's a wide enough number that ensures that a lot of voices from the board are included. I also want to point out that in our bylaws, the Planning and Priorities Committee says that full board is to be included with voting privileges, whereas for another committee that we strike, like the Director Search Committee, we can create the membership, the mandate, and the terms of reference. So we have the ability to determine, and I think I just want to reiterate a point that was brought up last time, where when we have 12, it does make up the majority of the board, and it's important that the committee doesn't represent the board. It's making recommendations to the committee. So it's important that it remains that way. And I also want to share that my concern with the Learning Center approach, as Trustee Siskandraja shared, we're moving away from it as a board, as a system, but also I don't want to rely on a lottery. I think there's a lot of interest for trustees to take part in this process. And the last thing I want to do is to rely on luck or chance for someone to be on this. This is one of the most intense processes. This is one of the most important decisions we're going to have to make. I'm so grateful that the past Director Search Committee led to the appointment of our director. We've seen the fantastic changes she's taken on, especially during a time taking on challenges that have existed in our system for years. And we can see how impactful a true leader could be. So I'm definitely not okay with leaving that to chance and by lottery. And I think by Learning Center, there wouldn't be enough, there'd be a lot of interest by Learning Center that all those folks wouldn't be able to be represented. So I'm definitely more in favor of the previous motion, and I will be voting against this one. Thank you.
Okay, but Trustee Pei, I'm going to move you just to the end because you already have spoken on this amendment, but he can close, right? But you have the ability to close on the amendment. So I'm just going to take the committee's indulgence, and we'll just make sure everybody gets a chance to speak who wishes to on this amendment. So Vice Chair Shen.
Madam Chair, you had mentioned that it was Trustee Laskin and then Trustee Lee many speakers ago. Somehow I got dropped.
I think that was on the first, wasn't that on the first one?
No, it was for this. I'm the seconder of this of this amendment. I had indicated I wanted to make a comment at 8:30 p.m.
He spoke, right? But didn't you speak already?
I spoke on the original, not this amendment.
Go ahead, Trustee Lee. We're it's a bit confusing. So Vice Chair Shen has suggested you go ahead.
Okay, well, I appreciate that. Yeah, but I do want to raise a point that I think there are folks in here who have spoken twice, once on the original and once on this. At least I think so. It's just surprising that I'm not, I need to fight for the ability to do so. So that's upsetting. But I will say that I agree with Trustee Rajakulasingham's comment that last time around, there were folks who felt that if we don't go with the Learning Center approach, then they wouldn't be equally represented because the board was different. And I'm glad she said that, because I think Trustee Rajakulisingham was one of those members who felt that her voice may or may not have been reflected on the committee if we had an open election to select 9 people, 10 people, whichever. I feel the same way today, because I think our board has changed based on the discussion, based on the mandates, based on the type of community that every trustee represents. I believe my viewpoint is in the minority. And I share the same concern that if we don't go with a geographically equal approach or equitable approach, like that of the Learning Center, then my community will not be represented at all, because the majority of our board currently has different, or is at least asking for slightly different things than some of my parents are, or a lot of my parents are. And I think many other trustees on this board will share the same idea. So I think, as colleagues, we should remember that we represent all students of the board. And we definitely shouldn't recommend structures or processes that, only meets the need of our own view and have a chance to block out any other viewpoints that may not agree with ours. I think a director should be a director for all the students of the TDSB, not just some students who reside in certain geographic areas within the TDSB. With that being said, this is why I am passionate that we need to make sure that the director search committee, whoever sits on it, has an equal and equitable geographic representation that represent our city and represent our board. With that being said, of course, I think Trustee Pei had mentioned that he, as the mover, agrees with the fact that we should probably only have 11, and he wanted to change the motion to say 11. Now, in the past, I know if the mover and the seconder both agreed, we can make a change to the motion so that we don't have to go through a different process. I'm wondering if the chair will allow that now.
Are there any objections to that? So the suggestion is, so are you withdrawing the amendment and resubmitting?
No, so basically what Trustee Laskin had said, 3 trustees from each learning center be selected, and a total of 11 trustees will sit on the committee.
Right now, the amendment is 11 trustees, including the chair and vice chair. So the new amendment is
No.
3 from each, 3 trustees from each learning center. So we need to add 3 per learning center. The original amendment.
So just to clarify, I'm just trying to wrap my head around what's happening. You're suggesting that your amendment would be 3 per learning center up to 11,
Up to 11 for the committee,
including the chair and vice chair.
including chair and vice chair, correct?
Up to 11, though. Is that what you're?
Sorry, just 11 for the committee.
The first amendment was 11 members, including the chair and vice chair. The amendment to the amendment was that there be, he wants to do a friendly amendment to his amendment.
The friendly amendment, he's withdrawing the amendment to the amendment and the new.
Up to 11. Okay, so we're going to have you, if it's okay, withdraw your amendment and make a new amendment to the amendment, which would be that there be 3 per learning center, up to 11, up to 3 per learning center, to a total of 11, including the vice chair and chair. Is that correct, Trustee Lee?
Correct. I would like to say minimum 2 up to 3 per learning center, totaling 11.
Minimum two up to 3 per learning center, to a total of 11, including the vice chair and chair.
If that's agreeable to Trustee Pei, which I believe it is.
Trustee Pei, do you agree with this amendment?
Yeah, I agree with the number, but I want to discuss with Trustee Madam Chair, if have give up few minutes regarding how we can select the number 3 from each learning center,
Trustee
because
Pei, I'm
we have
just wondering if you are still willing to second the, it's not to speak on it at the moment, it's just, do you wish to continue to second this motion? Amendment at least.
Madam Chair, would that possible you will allow me to have a private discussion with Trustee Lee about this motion? Just give us maybe first 3
No,
minutes.
I think this is just an amendment.
I understand, but I want to
If
ask
you're,
the amendment details,
if
because
we can get a
how the number 3 being selected from each learning center. I mean,
Trustee Pay, last
we
time
have
it was
4 learning
random.
center, but
So it's not up for discussion at the moment because it's not on the floor without a seconder. So could I please have a seconder for Trustee
Oh.
Lee's motion?
sure, I'll be a seconder. Yes. Okay.
Thank you. Okay, so it's now up on the screen that there be a minimum of 2 up to 3 trustees from each learning center to a total of 11, including the chair and vice chair. Do we have a speakers list on this amendment? I think we'll just keep going on the list that we had. So Vice Chair Shan, please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think we've had quite a bit of time together as trustees, and we know each other well enough. We've collaborated on motions across learning centers. We have disagreed within the same learning center on multiple motions. The learning center model was supposed to be equity-based. It's not equality-based. And I wasn't here at the last time. I don't know the context of what was moved and so on. It cannot be assumed that just because there are 4 learning centers that we will need to have 2 from each or 3 from each, because that's not what it's supposed to be. If it's equitable distribution, if you had known what the population needs are and so on, it would be different. So to use a geographical division of administrative leadership, which was what was happening at that time, as an equity-based decision-making is not right. Each of the learning centers have different needs. Each of the learning centers have different type of hopes and aspirations. And as board, we have found a way to work together as people who work together to decide what's in the right interest. And the director search and the decision on the director is one of the most, if not the most important decision that we will make. So learning center models helped us to distribute planning, distribute data, distribute conversations and so on, but it doesn't mean all 4 of these were divided based on equity. It is a premise. If we work that way, then we should have that throughout all of our decision making. If we come to a director decision, are we going to have 4 votes, 1 from each learning center, deciding who that should be? If we go in this model for the most important part of our decision making, again, I'm not judging what happened in the past. There might be context and challenges that happened that led to it. But at this conjunction, I think we worked well enough as community members. And in fact, we've known each other well enough that there might be people, some of us, do not want to have in the director search committee, which is a fair thing to do because that's what choice is. That's what people here are able to make. And some of us would want to see somebody really in that committee because they could actually lead that process. We as trustees will be able to make that decision together. I do feel the geographical distribution of learning centers was important for a number of things, but not necessarily could be considered as an equitable distribution when we start dividing everything equally over 4, which is counterproductive to what a conversation around equity should be. And if you want to kind of then really do that analysis, then we need to start weighting what each of these learning centers should be getting based on all those needs. Then maybe some learning center would be weighted higher, population, needs, and all this stuff. So don't use learning center model as an equity model. It's a bit of a resource compilation. As a large board, we struggled to decentralize some of the work that we were doing. Some of the local organizing, local superintendents, local schools, family of schools were not able to access a large chunk of decision making that was happening centrally. So that's what my sense was when I was here, when we were going through learning center models, almost like having 4 different administrative units that help to research, help to plan, help to do those things to make things easier, not necessarily divided based on needs. So I will caution us going in that direction. Thank you.
Trustee McLean, you're next.
We seem to be conflicted through the chair. And just so that it would also be possible to do 2 from each learning center and then have 3 at large, and then have no lottery, and be not at risk to a lottery. And it would be a compromise of a lot of what's being discussed here. We would have some regional, and then the ability, but the concept of the lottery makes me a little nervous as well.
Do we actually have, I just need clarification. I don't believe we have lottery on here at this point, do we? No. We don't actually have lottery in the motion. Presumably, this would be like how we do our other votes when we have more trustees than.
Okay, well, that's,
I don't believe anyone has actually put forward a motion that has lottery in it, but feel free to correct me if I'm wrong. We'll put you on the list unless this is a point of order. I'm happy to put you on the list, Trustee Hassan. Okay. We have a long list. Okay, so your suggestion can, of course, because we're dealing with 2 amendments at this point, if this fails, that is an option as well, of course, but that would be another amendment. Okay, Trustee Dawson, your turn.
Thank you. I'll be brief for a change. I do not agree with this amendment. I will be voting against it. Similar to Trustee Shan's comments, I do believe that, I don't believe that the Learning Center representation is representative of an equitable outlook of our board. And I personally would like to go as, based on the individual and cast my vote that way as opposed to by Learning Center. So I'm against this motion. Thank you.
Trustee Williams.
Can I call the question? Or it has to be the amenders?
No, I think everyone has to have had a chance to speak. Oh, not on an amendment. Oh, right, we're at board. We can't call the question because we're at board. It feels like we're in committee, but we're not. We're at board. Trustee Siskandaraja.
Thank you. Just to echo some of my colleagues, I'm not in support of this motion. I know there was conversations about last board. As was mentioned earlier, it was a very different dynamic. And I think this board has done tremendous work to overcome a lot of those grievances and sort of geographical divides. And hence why, we're moving away from the Learning Center model. Also, this is not how it was set up last time. Last time, it was up to 3 trustees from each learning center, in the sense that not all learning centers wanted to put a candidate forward because, people have different commitments. So, there might not have necessarily been equal interest from all learning centers. Last time it was a lottery. Someone voluntarily, after the vote, have decided to step down to make it 11. So that's another difference. And also a third thing that I can't support that makes us different the last time is that it automatically includes the chair and vice chair, which means that the 2 learning centers where the chair and vice chair are from lose a vote. Like their vote is already predetermined, which then also goes against the spirit of what the Learning Center model was last year, aiming to capture. So I just think there's a lot of things happening here that just I don't think is the direction we should be headed towards.
Okay, I don't, just to clarify, I don't believe we used a lottery last time. People chose if they wanted to be on it. It wasn't like we drew out of a hat. Learning centers voted for learning centers was how we did it last time. Oh, I'm sorry, Trustee Siskandaraj. I thought you said we used a lottery last time, but I just want to be clear, we have not used a lottery that I recall in
Yeah.
voting.
No, I said that we didn't use a lottery,
Okay.
and that it would be not fair in my view. What we did last time is someone voluntarily decided they're okay not being on it, one of the learning centers.
Correct.
So we've never gone down this route.
Okay. Thank you. Trustee Patel, have you spoken on the amendment? To the amendment, not on this one? Okay, please go ahead then. You're next.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And my understanding of Learning Center was more operational than what we call as a representation. We are proud, trustees 22, and I can assure you, Madam Chair, that each trustee has all different type or kind of students, like multicultural students. So we never talked about divide. So the reason why I always was against this learning center model was that, are we thinking that way? I might have 10 different communities and I probably represent them. Doesn't matter who they are. For me, a TDSB child is a TDSB child. And if we are thinking that learning center was based on communities, I think we are doing something wrong in here. So I completely oppose this amendment. Another clarification I need from movers and seconders. It says minimum 2 up to 3 trustees. What if one learning center, if it passes, decides to vote? Who's going to decide 2 people? There will be a maximum votes. So who decides that? So for me, this motion is not clear. I don't know if it's out of order because it's always 4 times 3 is 12. It's not 11. And how are you going to determine 2? That's the question I have. So if I can get the clarification of this. But for sure, I'll be voting against this. Thank you.
Thank you. I think, is that a question for me, Madam Chair?
Is the question for the mover or is the question a governance one?
It's a governance. How are we going to decide 2 up to 3?
So this is what we did last year. One person dropped off.
Voluntary, right? What if nobody drops out?
What we did last time as the mover.
Then
and
we
the
would
intent of
vote,
this motion.
presumably.
Sorry, Madam Chair, last time when we did this, and this is the intent of this motion, was that if no one dropped off, then we would draw someone to be excluded.
So we're going back to the same thing of selecting 11 people.
Yes. Trustee Patel, we are agreeing with you on the 11.
The chair and vice chair were on the committee last time, apparently. Okay, we're going to move on the speakers list then. Trustee Pay, you're next. And then that's the last speaker on the list. Oh, no, Trustee Hassan. I'm sorry, Trustee Pay. We'll come back to you. Trustee Hassan, please go ahead.
Yeah, through you, Chair, I just had a question. Does it make more sense for us to just sort of figure out who wants to sit on this committee first? Because we don't even know the numbers as of yet. Yeah.
That's my question.
Yeah, so we don't even know the numbers. I know not everyone here wants to sit on it.
We only have 11.
Which 11 of the 4?
Do we have 11?
Then
I think it's worth,
it'll prejudice the process. Shape the process.
So we have an amendment. Unfortunately, it's not unfortunate, but I don't believe at this point we can entertain that idea because we have an amendment on the floor right now. So Trustee Pay, you're the last speaker on the list.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I do not agree other trustees' comments that is each learning center should not have equal representation to representing the board. When we talk about equity, when we talk about in representation from other program, we're always talking about geographic representation, and I think we have a diverse committee. So for each learning center, we represent a different student population. Even though we may include most ethnic groups, but we have a different proportion of ethnic group. So also we have different need for each different ethnic group. So I think the learning center is so important to present the equity is also exist in our board selection for this so important selection committee. Because like other trustee mentioned, I fully agree. This is the most important position for next 4 or 5 years for our board. I do not agree other trustees saying that, okay, not a lot of trustee interested in this position. But as long as there's some trustee are interested, we should grant their desire to get on the board. I against the idea to have the general election because then this become a popularity contest. Some trustee like myself can be excluded in this selection process because I may share a different ideology from a lot of trustees. Don't take me wrong. And I'm fully in for equity. So I think everybody else I think on this board also is for, for equity. So let's show that, we have equity for this selection process. So please vote for my motion and have equal representation from each learning center. Thank you very much.
Okay, and we will open the vote on this amendment. This is the amendment to the amendment. And yeah.
Trustee Roger against.
Trustee Lee in favor.
The vote is open.
Trustee Pei in favor.
Shan against.
Nunziata in favor.
Trustee Earhart against.
Trustee Knox?
Those against.
Trustee DeWitt? Trustee Hassan? Trustee Hastings?
Against.
Trustee Balcarratman?
Oh, Wong is against.
Trustee McKee?
Against, thank you.
Trustee Williams against.
Trustee Patel?
Against.
We'll close the vote. Madam Chair, that has been defeated. The amendment to the amendment has been defeated.
Okay, the amendment to the amendment has been defeated, so we're going to go back to the first amendment.
Which is 11 members, including the chair and vice chair, as appointed by the board.
Okay, which is 11 members of the board, including the vice chair and chair, as appointed. Correct? Okay, so, and this, can you remind me who this was moved by? Oh, it's back up on the screen. I see. This is moved by trustees Sriskandarajah and D. DeVitis. You guys have already spoken to that. Are you asking to be added to the list? So, okay. Trustee Laskin, please go ahead.
Madam Chair, so for clarity, would this be a secret ballot? And we would elect up to 9 of those that nominated themselves or were nominated. Is that correct?
Yes, that's my understanding.
Thanks. I just think the whole rule should be clear before we vote. Thank you very much.
Okay, we're not seeing anyone else, so we will open the vote on this amendment.
Sriskandarajah 4.
Shan in favor.
Trustee Ghost in favor.
Nunziata in favor.
Laskin in favor.
Earhart in favor.
Trustee Lee, Trustee Hastings, Trustee Patel, and Trustee Pei.
Trustee Hastings is in favor.
I'm in favor.
Trustee Williams in favor.
McLean in favor.
Trustee Lee is against.
Pay against.
Wall in favor.
Thank you, everybody. And that has carried. So now we're going to go back to the main motion as amended. And we'll just bring that up onto the screen.
Yes.
Okay, so we now have a motion on the floor as amended to to strike a search committee for Director of Education to be established as follows. The mandate is to present a recommendation to the board on the selection of a candidate for the position of Director of Education. In terms of membership, there would be 11 members, including the chair and vice chair, as appointed by the board. And part B is that the search committee present an update on the process at the next regular meeting of the Planning and Priorities Committee on June 11th. And I can't, oh, there we go. And then the next regular board meeting on June 19th. So we are now going to take speakers on the motion. Trustee Laskin, please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to think optimistically, but I'm trying to be a realist. This is probably potentially, we might select an interim director because I think it would be very difficult to complete a whole process to be in place by November. So I just want the board to consider, because we have chair and vice chair elections in November 15th. I think once the committee's established, regardless of who the chair and the vice chair are, I think the membership needs to be consistent. So I just want to say that now so we don't get into that discussion later, but to change out, to potentially change out members of the committee, I'm just raising that. I just want the board to think about that because based upon, previous searches, it's quite an intense commitment and time commitment anyway, I just want the board to think about that. I mean, I'd like to think optimistically that no problem, a fabulous candidate will appear, but there may be a need for an interim while the formal search carries on. So I'm just saying that out loud. Thank you, Madam Chair.
So, are there any other speakers on, well, that point taken.
So I guess I should move, once the committee's established, it should remain in place.
Are you moving an amendment or are you just raising that issue?
Well, I guess I'm raising the issue, but I would be prepared to make an amendment that the committee remains in place until recommendation is made to the board. Because again, once org board hits, you don't want to change it up. So yes, I would be prepared to move that the committee that will be established tonight remains in place until there's a recommendation of a permanent director to the board.
So can I have a point of clarification or a point of order? We do have sometimes people withdraw from committees. We can't require that people necessarily must stay on a committee. Sometimes people.
No, I appreciate that, but just that we don't end and select holus bolus. But obviously, somebody's commitments change. I think we had about 4 or 5 changes the last time around.
Maybe you should say current chair and vice chair.
Yeah,
Okay.
or else it could say including the current chair and vice chair. Maybe that's easiest fix. Thank you. Whatever people decide, it's just better to have all this hashed out now, based upon my experience. That's all. It's up to the board.
Can I pass the chair?
Go ahead.
So the only comment I would make on that is that the committee may come back and decide that they're going to do an interim appointment. Like, we haven't actually specified that it's for, they have to determine the process, right? So it's possible, if this goes on for, I don't know how long the last one went on for, but the last one, I feel like, went on for 6 months or 8 months. We could have a new, so I don't know. Anyways, I don't have more to add. I can take the chair back.
Pass the chair back. Do we have that second?
Oh, that's right. Do we need a seconder for this? We have a,
I just wanted to raise the issue.
are you moving an amendment, Trustee Laskin?
No,
No,
I'm not.
okay, she's not. I think Trustee Rajagulasingham was
Let the
next.
committee come back and make a recommendation. I think you're right.
Trustee Rajagulasingham, you're next. You're hold two. Trustee Hassan, did you want to be next? I couldn't tell if you were asking. We have no further speakers. Actually, I should just, is there anyone in the in virtual who?
I have a question. Are we talking about like hiring the interim director here?
That will be up to the committee to determine.
Oh, that'd be up the committee. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Because it may be, Trustee Pei, that the committee finds that it doesn't, it's not feasible to get a director that fast. If it is, they might, but they have we haven't prescripted exactly how they do this. They're going to come back to us with an update on the process at the next regular meeting, and then they'll update us on their work as they go along. That's what this motion says. Does that clarify for you?
Okay, great. Thank you, Madam Chair.
All right, so we're going to open the vote on this, and then if this passes, we will ask for names to be put forward. Okay, people can nominate themselves.
Sorry, I thought we did the vote on this.
I thought we did too.
No,
Did-
that was the amendment.
Oh, 7 to 11. That's what we voted on.
Okay, so this is on the whole motion, just to be clear.
Okay.
As amended. So it is now open, I believe. On eScribe, it is open.
Shan in favor.
Sriskandaraj in favor.
Trustee Gross in favor.
Nunziata in favor.
Trustee Lee will be against.
Trustee Williams in favor.
Trustee Pei against?
McLean in favor.
Trustee Hassan,
Hassan in favor.
Trustee Laskin, you say in favor?
Patel's in.
Does it say 3 trustees from each learning center? That's not the motion.
Oh, no, we've got the wrong motion up.
No, I think we all knew what we're voting for.
But everybody knew what they were voting for. It was up to 11. 9. Well, do we need to redo anything? No, we're good. Okay, we've got the correct thing in the records. All right, everybody. So that it's still in.
In favor.
Chair Wong is in favor.
Thank you, Trustee Wong.
In favor.
Trustee Patel and Trustee Wong was in favor. Right? Okay, we have everybody.
Okay, we have everybody now.
We'll close the vote.
And that has carried. We'll just wait for it to come up on the screen. Okay, it's not showing on the screen, but that has carried 20-2. So at this time, we'll entertain nominations from the floor. People are welcome to nominate themselves or nominate someone else if they wish, I suppose. Okay, so Trustee, or Ms. Joseph Dowers, am I taking names or are you taking names? Okay, so we're going to ask people to go one at a time, if that's okay. And how about we do raise your hand, whether it's the raise your hand function or raise your hand if you're, no, we can't do raise your hand on the screen. Okay. Sorry, I'm going to just call out names first in the boardroom.
Through the chair, Trustee Nunziata would like to nominate himself.
Okay, so we have, you know what, we're going to go to virtual world first because maybe it's easier.
Nunziata is the first name.
Mhm.
Sriskandarajah.
Okay, we have trustee Pei, trustee Sriskandarajah.
Yeah, Trustee Payne nominate
We've got you.
myself. Okay.
Is he nominating?
Also, I nominate Trustee Lee as well.
Okay, you're nominating yourself and trustee Lee?
Yes.
Trustee Lee, do you accept that nomination?
I can, I do.
You accept, am I correct?
I will accept.
I can't understand what he's saying. I will accept, okay. Okay, so we have those three. Trustee Wong, did you put up your hand?
I did, yes. I
Okay,
nominate
I thought
myself,
I saw
please.
a hand go up. Okay, so we have trustee Wong as well. Now in the room, I'm just gonna look around for hands. I see trustee Rajakulasingham, trustee DeVitis, trustee Laskin, trustee Williams, sorry, I'll go slow.
Trustee Rajakulasingham.
Trustee Williams, trustee Patel, trustee DeVitis, trustee Hassan, trustee King, trustee Laskin. Did I miss anybody?
So that's 12. All the names back. Trustee Nunziata, Trustee Nunziata, Trustee Sriskandarajah, Trustee Pei, Trustee Lee, Trustee Wong, Rajakulasingham, Williams, Patel, Didovitis, Hassan, King, and Laskin. 12, that's 12.
Anyone who is willing to drop off, otherwise we'll go to a vote. We have 12 plus the chair and vice chair.
So that's 14, so 2 people.
James Lee will drop.
Sorry? The list is on the screen. Put up the list, please.
We need three to drop off.
Oh, I thought you said we had 12.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12.
Including the chair and vice chair.
And then there's
is
the chair
14.
and vice chair.
Three. Oh, yeah.
Okay, I didn't hear what trustee Lee said. Okay, so do we have anyone wishing to drop off? Otherwise, we'll just go to a vote. Okay, we're gonna go, hearing none, we need 3 to drop off.
Yeah.
Okay, so.
You want me to? Yeah, so we'll use the same procedure as we do for board, secret ballot. Yeah, and then this is what we're gonna do, the regular, and they're voting for 9 of these names, not the chair and vice chair.
Okay, up to 9, up to 9. Okay, so the way this is going to work is that we do this by secret ballot. Trustees who are online, you can email your ballot, like your votes, to Leola Pond and Denise Joseph Dowers, and you could choose up to 9 from the names on the screen. The chair and the vice chair are already on there, so then you can choose up to 9 of the others.
Sir, could we get those names removed? Like because the chair and vice chair are already automatically on it.
Sure, yes, we can manage that. Yes, so if you're in the room, trustee or Ms. Joseph Dowers is passing around a ballot. If you're online, if you could just send a vote by email to Ms. Joseph Dowers and Associate Director Pond. Does anyone have any questions?
Madam Chair, my apology. Can you send the list by email as well?
Send the list by email?
Please.
Sure.
Thank you.
Can we just send an email to all trustees? Is that possible, Bella? Thank you.
Sorry, Chair, I just want to confirm is not trustee, but the Ms. Joseph Dowers and Ms. Pong, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Thank you.
We're not voting for vice chair or chair, right? Keep them off the ballot.
You need more time? Are they ready?
I'm ready.
I need more time. I have to keep going back to find the right spelling.
I will. Just give me a second. Huh? Yeah. We will need a recess. Thank you. Why are you limping? Huh? Your knee hurting you? It's called arthritis. No, man. You want to go on recess while I check the You can't continue.
Sure, we can go on recess. We're going to go on a quick recess while the votes are counted and while we're waiting for any other votes to come in. Thank you. Okay, welcome back, everybody. We're out of recess now, and I'm going to turn the microphone over to Ms. Joseph Dowers to read the list of the newly comprised Director Search Committee.
Madam Chair, Trustees Nunziata, Swiskandaraja, Wong, Rajakulasingam, Williams, Patel, Didovitis, Hassan, and King, together with Trustees Shan and Chunaslin.
Okay, thank you very much. Congratulations to all those who are on the committee. You have your work cut out for you. And thank you also to those who volunteered to put your names forward. Thank you for your commitment. And we will look forward to everybody's input when we get updates at board. So with that, I'd like a mover and a seconder for adjournment. Thank you very much. Trustee Hassan and Trustee Rajwani were mover and seconder for adjournment. All those in favor? Say aye. Any against?
Aye.
Okay, thank you very much, everybody. And thank you, Ms. Joseph Dowers and Associate Director Pond for working on that, as well as Bella and Munshu. Thank you for your help this evening. So with this, we'll close out this meeting and we will be resuming PSSC.